Yes. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Have a seat. Yeah, have a seat. There we go. Give you that side, that way you got water.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Well, good morning. We really appreciate you showing up today. We're delighted to have this new Aspire session. As you can tell, we're going to do things a little bit differently today. With our guest that we have today, we're going to do kind of a fireside chat and just talk a little bit about his book. Again, for those of you who have not been to Aspire before, we do these periodically throughout the year. A few of them in the spring. This will be the last one, of course. We don't do them over the summer, and we'll do some in the fall. We are looking for speakers for the fall, so if you know of someone that you think would be, someone that we should consider, and folks are always tossing names and stuff out to us. In fact, that's how I met Mr. Schlegel, was, having a chance through somebody that referred him over to us and was telling us about the things that he'd been doing in his new book. Just to remind you, Hex Financial Group sponsors this, and we do it regularly, as I mentioned, but we're here to take care of your business clients. Our clients are all business owners. We're one of the few people in this part of the country that have the three pillars of the CPAs, the investment bankers, and the wealth management all under one house. So for the business owner, it makes for a really great one-stop shop. They give access to so much different talent and knowledge. As we all know, there's a myriad of problems and issues. My comment to our team across our different companies as the CEO, please call me before the fire gets to the 10th floor, because for some reason people don't seem to want to give you bad news, but they don't realize you can already smell the smoke. You just haven't figured out where it's coming from. But we understand that, and we recognize that our clients have needs, and it covers everything from capital to tax to financial reporting to dealing with auditors, regulators, as well as just handling wealth, succession planning, family members, family offices, all the myriad of issues that go on in the world of having wealth and managing that. So please let us know if we can help you. That's what we're here for. That's why we like to get everybody together, also so that you can network. Please stay around today. If you want CPE credit, we can arrange for that for you. Just touch base with the ladies at the desk whenever you're leaving. We will have copies of Mr. Schlegel's book out there. If you'd like one, you're welcome to pick one up. Take it with you. You could probably even get him to sign it for you before you leave. Please let us know what you need. They will also validate your parking for you, so let them know if you need that on the way out today. Now I want to introduce our speaker that's going to join me today, Bob Schlegel. Bob and his wife and business partner Myrna, came from humble roots in a small Ontario, Canada farming community. They launched their first family business, People Care Heritage Centers, that grew to 15 facilities in the U.S. and Canada. While Myrna operated the centers, Bob and a partner also launched Pavestone Company, which became the nation's leading supplier of concrete landscaping products. They sold both of the businesses, and to today involved in a myriad of new enterprises and philanthropic endeavors. In Bob's new book, Angels and Entrepreneurs, a lifestyle, I'll put my paper together, a lifestyle formula for riding the roller coaster of entrepreneurship, shares the lessons that he's learned from navigating his way through the life of an entrepreneur. And today we're just going to kind of talk through some of these different things in his book and stuff. So welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Greg. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us what motivated you to write the book.
Well, I grew up in back to the old days. I grew up in a dairy hog and chicken and farm, and started the companies and sold them. And at this point in my life, it's too late to teach my kids anything new. My kids are 30 and 40, but I got 7 grandkids coming up. So they just leave a legacy and kind of leave something to inspire them to, get out there and try their own thing and work at their own pace with their own little company and get started in their own careers.
So how did you end up coming to Dallas? I mean, the trip from Ontario, small farming community, how did you and Myrna meet? Tell us a little bit about the story and how you ended up here.
Sure. Let me start with the old days. I grew up at a little kid on the farm, like I was telling you, and I was kind of mischievous little kid, I guess, or energy, too much energy and enthusiasm, and a little bit of mischief in there. So I got kind of a crazy life. When I was 5 years old, I broke my neck and started grade 1 in a one-room schoolhouse in the half mile up the road from the farm. And there was 4 kids in my class, and I was the only kid in the body cast, of course. So that was kind of interesting. And then a couple years later, I got attacked by a couple Great Danes and beat me up pretty good and put me in the hospital for a while. And then a couple of days after, a year or two after that, we were home alone with my brother. I had a 10-year older brother and 5-year older sister. We were in our house. I was 7 years old, I guess, and the house caught fire and burned down. And I thought I was going to be a fireman and tried to put the fire out, and my brother dragged me out of the burning house. So it was just crazy stuff like that kept going on in my life. And so I always thought I had angels looking after me. But my mother always said, "You get some angel looking after you." And I guess it was my mother. I guess my first angel. So then, but growing up in the farm, then the interesting person that came to the farm all the time was once a year the guy would come out in a nice car, a nice suit, and visit my dad and talk to my dad in the house for a couple hours and leave. I talked to him and they said, "What is it you do again, sir?" And he said, "Well, I'm the CPA. I come here to look after do your dad's taxes and books." So that was always intrigued. My life hung with me. Then, and my dad also had a little service station garage with the gas pumps at the corner of the farm. And I loved working on I wanted to be a grease monkey and to work on that for. I just loved changing tires and changing oil and anything to do with cars and engines, that kind of stuff. So I really wanted to do that. And my cousin, all my uncles and aunts lived on the farm from both sides of my family. They're all farmers, and they all had farms within 3, 4, 5 miles of each other. So you saw your cousins all the time and growing the rural neighborhood. So my cousin quit school after grade 10 and started working on the farm. Of course, we're the first generation to didn't even go to high school. My farmers, they've been farmers for generations. So then my mother kept telling me, "You're going to school," and I said, "Well, I'm at grade 10. I'm leaving and going to work apprentice for being an auto mechanic, my life stream." And my mother says, "No, you're not, kid. You're going to school." I can still hear her saying that, "No, you're not quitting school." And so it's fine. I graduated school, graduated college. I got my CPA, and then worked at KPMG for a couple of years, and started my own accounting firm, and did that for 8, 10 years, I guess, public accounting. And then right at 79, my wife was a nurse, and she had worked in. My dad also was. My brother was also involved in healthcare and nursing. He had a mission. They had looking after old folks home, basically looking after folks with a kind of were Mennonite farmers, and they kind of created a Mennonite home to look after the seniors. So my wife worked there as a kid through high school, and I did the payrolls and accounting and that kind of stuff. And then by the time we were 29, and we were 27, 29 when we came to tech. Started looking around. We wanted to expand our companies in the Sun Belt. It still snows a lot in Canada, if you might recall. So we looked in Florida, Phoenix, California, Texas, and we found one in Plano, Heritage Manor, which was on Coit Road back in 1979. Coit Road was a 2-lane road. And I remember driving into town the first time we drove by. I said, we can't be this way up here, way this far north, and Coit Road. It wasn't even part of Dallas. And so that was our first facility. We bought that in '79, and took that, and one thing led to another, and we grew that, and then started Pavestone about the same time. A friend of mine came down. We started Pavestone together in Grapevine, which is this land we still have over there, and the Pavestone plant still over there, 121 and 360. You may have driven by that. What we should have done is kept the land, just bought the land and kept it, not done anything with it. Probably would have been a lot easier.
So when you, I know that there was like 6 years you were going back and forth a lot and traveling. Tell us a little bit about that and how you managed to juggle everything.
Well, from 79 to 85, that's 6 years. We didn't move here because we weren't sure when the company's going to work and all that kind of stuff. And we had Pavestone was kind of still struggling, and the healthcare was doing pretty decent. So but by 1980, after the 6th year, we had the 2 kids, and they were like 6 and 8 by that point. And the 8-year-old, the teacher sent us home from, they're still going to school in Canada. And we used to drive a little Chevy van. We'd leave one Friday night we'd leave up there, and then the next Friday night we'd go up there, and a week and 2 back and forth like that for almost 6 years. It was hard flying at the last year, 4, 5, 6, but got tired of that's a 22.5-hour drive. We had from here you went to Nashville and turned left and get back to Toronto. So it's pretty easy route. But we had grandma and the dog and the nanny in the van, and we just cruise back and forth every other weekend, typically, kind of thing. So we didn't want to. We rented an apartment in Plano and rented furniture. Didn't want to risk everything we had and put the whole farm on the deal. So we struggled, and then we moved here in '85. When our daughter had missed like 64 days of school, and our teacher called us in and said, "You guys got to decide where you want to live, here or there. And it's not good for kids to miss that much school." So we just picked Dallas and never regretted it.
Awesome. In the book, one of the things you talk about is PEP. Talk a little bit deeper about your understanding, and I know the comment you made that passion doesn't necessarily equate to hobbies and stuff like that. Sure. And I know you've always had a passion for business and that kind of stuff.
Sure. Well, PEP, I had this acronym, PEP, P-E-P. It's really a bunch of P's and a bunch of E's, but if you spit it all literally like PP, and I did take some marketing courses that I failed, but I thought PEP always sounded better than PP, So the first P stands for persistence. It's persistence. The most important thing in any enterprise, any company, especially entrepreneurship, is persistence. Because you got to keep trying, and you can never give up. I mean, you're going to fail. You're going to fail lots of times, and anything. You've never bet the farm, and because a lot of things you try are going to fail. So you have to look at fail as an acronym. First attempt in learning, I like to think is failure. So, and the first E is education. The more education you get, like my mother said, you just need all you can get. And a big part of education, besides the formal courses, is Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. You get that 10,000 hours under your wing. That's why they have apprentice. That's why the 3 years of Canada was a 3-year
requirement.
Yeah,
work requirement.
Yeah, and you learn more in those 3 years than you do in your previous 16 years of school, as you guys know. And they're not new to any of you guys. You're big, successful guys as well, businessmen, ladies. So you just need the persistence, the education, the entrepreneurship. I think the entrepreneurship lifestyle, doing your own thing and starting your own gig and making your own decisions, something I just always wanted to do. And my dad, farmers are basically entrepreneurs, and he also had a tractor dealership and a gas station. They're all entrepreneurs, right? So just doing that stuff was something I always wanted to do. And so the PEP thing, I teach my kids and any people I talk to, encourage them to be, get the education, be persistent, start the entrepreneurship, and then the last P is really passion. You got to love what you're doing. If you love what you're doing, you never work another day in your life. So you got to, whether you love what you do first, or whether you love it first, or do it first and then love it, or one of the others. If you don't love it, you're not going to be. It's harder to be successful at it. So I think they go together. And then the last P is really partnerships. You need to have partners with your customers. First of all, the great thing in America, at business, for the entrepreneurs, for the business world, you have to have happy customers. If you don't have good customers, you're not going to stay in business. So the customer has to win. You have to win-win. Nothing, again, not new to you guys, but if your customers aren't satisfied, you're not in business very long. So it's really a self-leveling course. If you charge a fair amount and people are happy to pay for it, you can make a few dollars at the end of the day, and then the other thing, but where the angels come in, it's really the power of positive thinking, or some people call it the power of prayer, and then all the other people, your partners, your partnerships. Lots of your partners are angels, be it your mother or your customer or your supplier or your vendor or your guy who pumps your gas. They all do try and, the way things work in a free enterprise system. If you're successful and have a lot of happy clients and people you deal with, you are successful and you proceed and can make investments and give back to society and contribute to community.
You also mentioned that just working with the partnerships, that part of that is your family, the one with your family, but also having a marriage, but also a strong marriage. Tell us about that and kind of your thoughts about how you did that and how you kept it all together on that side too. Because I know nowadays work-life balance and all this kind of stuff is a big deal.
Yeah. We're high school sweethearts, I guess, my wife and I, and she's a nurse, and she got a. So it's just good to come out of school with a good education. I remember we got married. I was making $5,700 at the accounting firm, and she was making $7,200 as a nurse. So we were making like $13,000. What are we going to do with all this money? We couldn't. It took a while to figure out how to spend it, but we did get it spent. So just I know we always got along well. We got married 50 years ago this year, so it'll be a fun celebration.
Congratulations. That's great. You talk about the open door policy that you've always had in terms of managing people, working with people in your companies and stuff, and how important it was for you to keep that policy in place and always trying to make sure that people were there able to talk to you and stuff. Tell us a bit about your thoughts on open door.
I've always had that. We always had part of our management style has been, being a farm kid, you just talk to people all the time. You talk to your neighbors and your cows and your chickens and everything else. But I always believe in being completely open and honest with people and tell them the truth, kind of like Harry Truman. You don't give them hell, Harry. I don't give them hell. I just tell them the truth, and they think it's hell, right? So just had that. I love to be able to management, MBWA management by wandering around. We had that and water cooler talk and all that. I think he achieved. That's why the last couple of years, when COVID, not being seen with people, is harder to manage because you miss the water cooler talk and you get ideas from walking around talking to your folks and your people and your customers and your workers, and it's just important, I think, to be out there. I was a great believer also in your health is your most important asset. And don't do anything to jeopardize it. So something like smoking jeopardizes your health, right? So and everybody knows that now. People that I couldn't stand people that smoked. I always had a non-smoking policy for our clients. Even in the healthcare, we wouldn't take anybody that smoked, and we wouldn't hire anybody that smoked, and we still don't hire anybody that smokes. So it's just kind of if you're too stupid to look after yourself, look after your body. Why do I want you working for me? It's kind of my own theory on that. So apologize to smokers, but. I'm sure not too many people hear smoke anymore, but it's such an obvious one thing. The one thing you can control about your health, a lot of things you can't are to so maintain that. Look after, don't jeopardize your own health, and then the next thing is get education, of course. Nobody get as much education as you can. Nobody can ever take your education away from you. No personal guarantees or anything. Never touch your education. So. I think those two things in life, a friend of mine told me that several years ago. Your education, your health is your most important asset, don't jeopardize it, and education is the most important thing you can acquire. And then after that, it's be a giver, not a taker, because there's enough takers in this world. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and as your companies grew, and they grew very dramatically over a number of years, how did you maintain all that open door? How did you maintain the communication with your people?
There's no secrets. Just be available. Talk to people. Internet makes it a lot easier. Did monthly email blasts and that kind of stuff. But it takes a long time to develop a process or a company or an enterprise. At Pavestone, we started that in 1980. It took me 14 years to get to $10 million, and the terrible 14 years, the 80s. For 80s, remember the late 80s, 86 was everybody's best year, 87 was everybody's worst year, and then the 90s and SNL. So by 1994, we were doing $10 million, and we thought that was pretty cool. And it was been an ugly 14 years getting there. The phone's been cut off, and we was all the cash flow things that companies go through. And sorry, I'm drying out here. Oh, I forgot to open this, Greg. Just hold that.
There we go.
You got it. Sorry. So Pavestone, it took me 14 years to get to $10 million in '94, and we thought that was pretty good. But then my partners all left in the '80s when it crashed. I was in healthcare, was supporting the concrete company and all that kind of stuff for a while, and then met a few good bankers. Rick Rogers in the audience here was one of the good guys over the many years. If I could plug in for Texas Capital and Rick. So it took me 14 years to get $10 million, and then it took me 5 more years to get to $100 million at Pavestone, and then we started, when you get the formula figured out, we grew $100 million every 3 years. So we went to, by what was that, 25 years later, we were doing almost $400 million. And EBITDA was running pretty good and all that kind of stuff. And then we, a little interesting story if you want to hear, is so we had a $400 million company, and EBITDA was about 15%, $60 million we were making. And this is all in paper, public. So we got an offer to sell it for 9 times $540 million in 2007, 2008. And that was pretty good, pretty cool. We had couple $100 million in mostly revolving debt on it. And so we signed that deal. Thought we had a home run, and we did close on. We shook hands in December of 2007, and things were still pretty. Economy was still pretty good then. 08 came, of course, by middle of my wife's birthday, March 11th of 08. They were supposed to send the wire in to closing, and we got a call at about 5 to 9 that morning and said there's been a bit of an issue come over the Hart-Scott-Rodino and FTC, Federal Trade Commission. They want to talk to you about antitrust and anti-competitive nature. And we'd done studies on the competitive. We had I think 16 or 18 concrete plants at the time, and there was like 1,000 concrete plants in America making concrete blocks. So paving stone is just a brick-shaped concrete block, right? And there's 1,000 guys making concrete blocks in America. We had 16 of them. Who cares about that? And the guys we were selling to had about, but also another 16 or 20. So between us, we had 15% of the concrete landscape products market in America, 15%. So what's the problem there? But they said they want to do further investigation. So that was about March, and then they wanted 30. We need 30 more days to look at it. It was about 30. We can live with that. And then 30 more days came up, and now we need another 60 days, another 90 days. So we'd spent, meantime we have lawyers going back and forth to DC, and we had spent like $20 million in defending our position. And the economy kept going. If you recall, 08 was not a good year. Lehman Brothers crashed in November, I think, of 08, was it? I don't think it got worse than sales. Our sales were dropping about 10% a year for 2 or 3 years, which is not too bad for but a lot of Acme Brick was down like 90%, pure building products. So we thought that was pretty decent. We could struggle along. We were still making money. But then, January of 09, almost a year later, they killed the deal and said, no, you're not closing this deal because between you guys and your buyer, you have 15% of the market, but you have 95% of the big box market. Home Depot, we had Home Depot and Walmart, and the guy who was buying us had the other guy, Lowe's and Kmart, and that was 95% of the big box market. But who really cared? You can't raise your prices against, Walmart. You can't raise Walmart prices, and anything. The real study, the truth was, you couldn't raise the prices. So we're in a jam, literally between the rock and the hard place. The rock being the economy going to hell, and couldn't sell the competitor. And by that time, we had busted most of our covenants. Even Rick didn't like the covenants. But we never missed a cash payment. But our EBITDA coverages and all that kind of stuff. 3.25 times that's all out the window. And during that period, I had guaranteed, not with Rick's bank, another bank, I guaranteed one small chunk of our loan, a $28 million line. I'd personally guaranteed for some stupid reason, and so that was over our head. And then the next, so after they killed the deal in 09, it still kept dropping, still about 10% a year. So our covenants kept getting, we got busted covenants, but again kept our payments in line. And the banks are all over us, and we had ugly meetings with bankers. And in the book, I talked about one ugly meeting. We had about 20 bankers, 20 lawyers at a big bank, at one of the office towers downtown, and a really, really ugly meeting. Because the personal guarantee issue came up, and said, we can take your, you can take your take everything you got, of course, and we want a list of all your assets, your jewelry, and your cars, and your stuff like that. And said, well, what would you want with that? Everybody knows the answer to that. But and so I got really ugly, and then we kept working our butt off, and again never missed a cash payment, but we got pretty close on a lot of their stuff. But anyway, the banks were patient with us. They're kind of patient, and then that's a huge learning experience, by the way. If you go through that, I hope not many of you have been through that too closely, but it's quite that's when you need to rely on guys like Greg to help you out. We had lots of help and lots of advice, and good bankers, friendly bankers like Rick were very helpful, and we had other assets we could borrow money against and that kind of stuff. And so just the persistence thing. That's where we get the PEP thing between the persistence and the angels. The two most important assets that were left at that point. And some of your bankers are angels, and some aren't. Some are. Some of your lawyers are angels. But in Texas, we learned all about regulatory laws and that kind of stuff. You can't take your house in Texas. We had a great house. We like that part, but then they can take your furniture. Just in case you ever want to know that, they can't take your furniture. I mean, never got that close, but it does scare the hell out of you and gives you a good reason to have a lot of angels.
I was talking to somebody this morning about that if you've been in business long enough, through the 80s, all these time periods, that you've seen what we call cycles. And you know, it's like right now, we're all kind of holding our breath going, okay, how's this going to work? What's this going to look like? And that's as good as you can do, is try and manage your way through the cycles. You know, that's part of it. Yeah.
I live within the rules, and Texas is a great, right? We love Texas. We good. I had a green card for 32 years. I got to get my citizenship 3-4 years ago, so it's just great to be an American, guys.
That's right. So due diligence. I know there's a couple times you mentioned in the book where you kind of let your guard down a little bit, and they were talking about before you jump into a business, before you jump into some kind of new opportunity, and I'm sure you see a lot of that stuff. I mean, you and I have talked about how many different deals we both see all the time and different opportunities, and I call it we kiss a lot of frogs to find a prince. That's kind of part of the process. Tell us a little bit about some of that and the partnerships and examples of things maybe things you probably said, hey, I should have done more diligence, things I did do, things that worked, things that didn't.
Sure, a couple of things. Well, you guys know lots about diligence, but it's all about the people, isn't it? In a lot of cases, and you got to check that out. Some of the obvious things are probably I made lots of mistakes. I think I did. I never had a big board or management board, which I should have in retrospect. Would have slaved me down, and I went to let's do it, get it done, try it, fix it, try and fix it, and. Some of the pavestone, the last couple of plants I was thinking about it now, would have been nice to still have pavestone, not to sell it, not to have had to sell it. We did sell it a couple of years later, after the thing failed. We took a partner, some angel capital, I guess, from a private equity company for half, and that bailed it out and give us a couple more years. And then when they sold their company, we had picked our right of first refusal, bought it back, and we sold it. So we did end up doing pretty good with pavestone. Wasn't the 300 or 400 million I anticipated, but it was about half of that. Was still better than the B word, So it's, so got out of that pretty good. But then looking back at that, the pavestone plant could build a plant was about $15 or $20 million. But by the time you build a big automated and big machinery and inventory, so a couple of plants we had. For example, we had if we hadn't built the last two plants. In retrospect, you probably they were sort of pushed us over the line on cash flow. So expanding too quickly, walking in the face of a recession. I've had some good board members like you. It would have slowed me down a little bit on some of those things. Said, let's rethink that, instead of just myself making a decision in a conference room. Would have been a lot. So I guess rely on your angels maybe for more advice, but instead of barreling ahead.
Sure. I know that from having been around you that you're really optimistic. And during the darkest times and stuff, how were you able to find hope? And when it felt like everything was kind of crumbling around you, I mean, when you're sitting in a room and you've got 20-something lawyers, you and I both been there before, and and you're thinking, okay, how are we going to make this work? How do we get out of this hole? I'm in a pit, and I got to get out of here, and all I can see is dirt 20 feet high in any direction. How do you deal with that mentally from your side?
I think you had to rely on. Hope, Robert Schuller, the pastor, he's talking about the power of hope, and Norman Vincent Peale, the power of positive thinking. I'm definitely a positive thinker. You got to have that, and that's between that and your angels, and the power of you've got to have the hope in them. You got to make sure you never run out of hope, because that drives you up, gives you a reason to get up in the morning, and gives you the pep to, get at it and keep fighting, and see the light at the end of the tunnel, and the power of prayer and everything in that whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I always tell people, Swindoll has a great comment that he says you should get up every day and you work like it depends on you and pray like it depends on the Lord. Yeah. And I've told a lot of C-level execs that were in the middle of changing jobs that they basically walked out with an empty box and going, how do you get through this? And I think that's the way you do it. Yeah.
A lot of biblical terms are in there, in the angels, of course. But the whole thing, you listen to your Sunday pastors and have great made of emotional. You guys may remember a guy named Billy Weber used to be up at the Presbyterian Baptist Church. I used to love going to hear him. It's like every Sunday is a motivational speech on getting out there and right, it was right here at Rapo and Hillcrest, right?
Yeah.
And but I always believed in asking shall the scripture, asking shall be given unto you, seek and you shall find, and knocking the door shall be opened. What better three little verses like that to remember about if you're a salesman or a CEO? Just get out there and never give up and keep knocking on those doors.
Absolutely. KPIs. I know that that's a term that a lot of us hear, but you have some great examples of KPIs and things that you have some top favorites and stuff. Tell us a little bit about that. What you like in the way of KPIs, what's important to you when you're looking at your dashboard.
The key performance indicators, of course, you all know what that is and follow them. I like the, I said BHAG, also BHAG is, set big, hairy, audacious goals. And then, so all my guys know what the BHAG is, big, hairy, audacious goal to hit, 50 million or 500 million or whatever it is. And then do your spreadsheet. I'd never done a spreadsheet I didn't like. Then over the far right-hand column is always the BHAG,
Yeah.
And then the left-hand column is where you are now and what do you have to do to get there. And then set your KPIs, your volume of product or square foot or number of cars or whatever your unit measure is, and track it every day. I track every day and I send it to everybody. So everybody gets a KPI in the morning. This is where we are. This is daily goals, and just follow your BHAGs with your KPIs, and you got all these acronyms, and with a little bit of pep in there, and you got a successful company.
There you go. There you go. I know that you and Myrna are, I'm going to call a member of the same club that Kim and I are, where it's a world of giving back, and we both feel very, very blessed that we can help and do, and when someone comes to you, that you can always write a check, and that was one of my goals in life, was to always be able to, if people ask, we could always say yes, and we wrote a check. Tell us a little bit about the philanthropy and what you and Myrna are doing, and share with the crowd. I mean, I probably know a lot more just because I live in the same world you do every day, where the ladies are busy trying to, Kim laughs and tells everybody that she has the fun job. She gets to give money away. She said, everybody likes me. But tell us a bit about what you guys are doing and where your focus is.
Well, we do a lot for, the biggest thing is education and entrepreneurship. In Canada, I started my graduating college at Wilfrid Laurier University of Waterloo. Waterloo is the home of BlackBerry. Remember, BlackBerry used to be king of the communications and mobile, Wi-Fi and mobile email, and just disappeared after they wouldn't have apps. Couldn't get. I think the biggest reason BlackBerry failed, couldn't get Uber on your, couldn't have apps on your phone. If you guys remember when you had your BlackBerries. So being at the right place at the right time, being able to accept the market change with that. But with this, so I started a school of entrepreneurship at my university. When I went to school, the profs used to say, well, the biggest way to get ahead in this world is to become a Fortune 500 CEO. Well, how many of them are there? Well, there's 500 of them, There's 360 people in North America, and I don't think I get a better chance to become an NFL football player than becoming a 500 CEO. But still, we all know lots of 500 CEOs, especially in this town. There's lots of them. But then I decided, well, entrepreneurship, I used to think, even though during those classes, I used to sit there drawing up trademarks of one of my companies are going to be Pavestone or whatever it was, And during those classes, we're just hand scratching my company logos. I would never want to be a Fortune 500 CEO, but to start your own gig and do your own thing, control your own destiny. And then with that, so I started a school of, a couple $1 million, I started a school of entrepreneurship in Waterloo, which is still there and it runs, and it's pretty good. So now that's pretty, with the high tech combined with the BlackBerry guys, they're all still in Waterloo, the old technicians. So it's kind of a high-tech little generator of all kinds of little entrepreneurs. And Canada has a pretty good VC. The government puts last money in, first money out. The first money in, last money out. So it's good for the other investors. They have a lot of VC funds they're very successful and supported by the government's really got into. Finally, the Canadian government's maybe even ahead of the American a little bit as far as supporting the VC business, because everybody knows Bill Gates, who are our new guys, Jeff Bezos and Amazon.
Musk.
Elon. Greatest, most successful entrepreneurs in history now, I guess. Just supporting more guys. Anything entrepreneurship, I think, is creating more jobs, creating lots of. So we give a lot of money, some money in entrepreneurship. education, and healthcare. Alzheimer's. My wife being looking after old folks, Alzheimer's is a terrible, destroyer of lives, and so we support that as much as we can as well. My wife is a Schlegel Alzheimer's Award for nursing students to get more involved in Alzheimer's research.
Awesome. Tell us about what you're working on today with companies and stuff. I know you own things, and just like me, you're always looking at the next opportunity and what's going on and where things are going. Tell us a little bit about what you got today and what you're working on.
We have a couple of real estate things in California. We have a master plan, 10,000 acre master plan community we bought 10 years ago. That's finally coming out of the ground. But California, we have a master plan community. It's been in the land. It started in 1985 as a brainchild. So we bought it in 2012. And year 27 of its planning life. So in California, the environmentalist mission of life is to stop any kind of development. So we bought it in year 27 in 2012, thinking we could another 3 or 4 more years to finish this thing off. In 30 years, struggling to get a project started in California, right? No, you can't. So 10 years later, we started digging 3 weeks ago. After year 37 of the entitlement process, it took 37 years to get to grading. We're grading right now. It'll be hopefully another 2 or 3 years. It'll take off. But that's kind of a long-term thing for the grandkids. Good trust for the grandkids. But we also have a part of Pavestone. We took a solar panel, 20 inch by 40 inch solar panel. It was a large patio slab basically. And we're putting concrete in the bottom of it and putting a surface on it. So it looks like concrete, but it's really a solar panel. So it'll be about the size of your table, the panel will be. We'll put them in you can just walk on them, put them in your patio. So there's a little bit of R&D in it yet. We've been doing it about 2 years. We're getting close to a year or two. You should be able to go to Home Depot and buy panels and make your own patio that creates enough power. So a 24-foot square patio should generate enough power to support a 2,000 square foot home. It could be your pool deck, or you can't drive on them yet, but you walk on them, put patio furniture on them as an outdoor patio, and so that's kind of the most fun thing we're doing probably right now.
Awesome. What do you want to accomplish in the next 5-10 years as you're looking at the latter part of life and stuff? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I know you think of that a lot, I guess, especially I'm 72, and my dad died at 69, and my brother at 68. So you never know when your time's up, so you have to just prepare your kids, I guess, for your grandkids for the next go around, and try and be as helpful as you can in the meantime.
Absolutely.
There's a little story at your dog. You get married, you have kids, and you have your kids, and really all of a sudden your kids are moving out of this house, and your dog dies, and you live in a big old empty house by yourself. You have to get that through life. And my wife hates that story, but that's the reality of it, isn't it? When the kids move out, the dog dies. Then you have to start thinking your grandkids. You learn you appreciate your grandkids are better than your real kids, so you can support them as much as you can, and much more appreciative. Yeah.
Questions? Any from the audience? We thought we'd take a few questions here. And yes.
So you referenced the fact that for Pavestone you were successful and you got to sort of a plateau and were hanging in there at a level for a while before I guess the word would be broke out. Mm-hmm. What sort of changes did you make? What was kind of your thinking on how do you go from where you are to the next level? Can you talk about some of the did you change focus or marketing, or what led to the breakout?
Really, the expansion of the big boxes. For the first 10 or 15 years, all we did was support contractors, and paving stones were you sold to mostly paving contractors, landscape home builders, and that sort of thing. Then when the big boxes took over, Home Depot, basically, we did it in 1993, year 13 or 14. We did 11 store sample of Home Depot stores in Dallas, and selling they never sold landscape products before, and they all had big garden centers, and the same with Walmart. A garden center at Walmart is a parking lot. They would take 10 or 20 parking spaces and put 2x4s around it. That was their garden center. So we really created for them a way of crippling up extra margin with no overhead. So a whole new product line for Walmart. No, but the expansion was really Home Depot. Home Depot was going from a couple hundred stores to 5,000 stores. That was really where we grew. We grew in the 90s, after 94, we grew 40% a year for almost 10 years, 40% a year, mostly with as Home Depot expanded, we expanded, we build plants. They wanted a plant in Boston, we'd build one in Boston, and they wanted one in Cincinnati, we'd do Cincinnati. So with concrete products, you'd only ship it about 150 to 200 miles efficiently, because a load of concrete is only about $2,000, and you can spend $400 or $600 on a truck, going more than 200 miles. So you have to have a plant. In a perfect world, you have a plant every 300 or 400 miles across the country. We had about 75% of the country done with our 16, 17 plants with that. So it expands up the big giant customer that loves you, I guess, and you grow mutually beneficial to each other. And people would think, well, isn't that dangerous dealing with one kind of thing, because Home Depot was half our business at the end, and Walmart was about a third of it. So we did two customers were 75% of our business. And we said, what's the danger of that? And there is some danger, except that you need each other the same, because nobody else can supply us. They can make one phone call, and we can deliver products to 5,000 stores, which is what the FTC did. That's why they killed it. Kind of a badge of honor, I guess, when the FTC says you're too big for a kid from Canada creating a product. I said, get out of here. But it's so the big customer definitely the way, and it's easier to sell to one customer than it is to 200. So that was a big thing.
Carry on that theme about Home Depot and the large box. For new entrepreneurs that I've known over the years, being able to get a contract with one of those big boxes always seems like a holy grail, aspirational when they're young. And then when they get the contract, it's a little bit like the dog that caught the school bus and not knowing what to do with it. How do you keep big box companies happy?
You got to make sure you supply them, because with delivery, and so I kept a little division of paper called Bedrock Logistics. I still have that, and that's kind of fun. I'm growing that again, see if I can do it one more time. And so far, it's working okay. But the big thing is being delivered on time, because if you don't have product in the store, Friday morning, they're missing a sale forever, because it's got to be there Saturday morning when the customer comes in. So it's vitally important that you have a supply chain. We had a couple hundred of our own trucks and lots of thousands of other trucking contractors to get it there on time. So you have to kiss butt and really keep your customer super happy. And the good thing is that they pay you on time, as long as it's all computers talking to each other. Nobody holds a check because they're mad at you. If the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, you're going to get paid by ACH at 9 o'clock Monday morning. So the cash flow is reliable. Make sure your IT systems are working. So we love big customers. And some people hate them. Some guys, when you talk private equity guys, will say, "Oh no, 50% of your company, 50% of your business is one customer. That's not going to work." And other guys, "Oh yeah, 50% of customers." So our company, finally sold the company to a company called Quikrete, which makes the you heard of Quikrete. They make the bags of mortar and premix and that kind of stuff. And they loved Home Depot as their biggest customer. And they said they did really 2 days of due diligence, walk through the factories, and Home Depot's your customer. They loved that, and we closed that thing in about less than 30 days. I had 30 days to close it with a right of first refusal, and they were probably the only company could have done that. And they tried to buy us for 3 years and lost it 3 times because the first time we. So anyway, it was finally we got our great people together, but the good and bad is that the big customers. The good is the volume, of course, and the bad is also the volume. But the good is they pay you on time, and they grow like crazy, and as long as you can supply them, meet their needs, and don't make anybody too mad at you. And they do everything to the returns, and you have to. If the customers don't like it, you take it back. They take it back, and of course the supplier takes it back, and no questions asked. So that's the kind of a cost thing you have to build in. The bad thing is we actually fired the other big box customer because they were just too greedy and demanded co-ops and things that we just couldn't handle. And so we ended up doing the one customer. We ended up going to Home Depot, and they gave us all their business. So it's kind of a good trade-off.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, looking forward, can you talk about the role of technology and access to data, and specifically with regard to your transportation company?
Yeah, exactly. Well, all we do is we spend most of our money on IT. We have 4 or 5 IT guys out of 100 people just working on setting up new systems, and we're buying all kinds of software from different people. But it's really matching up. Now it's a freight brokerage company. We have about 20,000 carriers to look after 400 customers. Again, the same thing there with bigger customers. We do Some huge customers, $1 million a month. We've half a dozen customers like that probably, who just, and they're big customers. They could do their own stuff, but they just have to farm it out or want to farm it out because it's easier and quicker for them, for us to specialize in it. And just make sure the truck's at the right place at the right time and to get the product there on time. And we make a little margin in between that. But it's kind of a fun business because we don't have any fixed assets. The first business I really found, the brokerage business, we don't have any assets, period, just receivables and payables. And that's kind of a more fun deal. Don't have to there's no lease payments on equipment or depreciation. It's kind of a pretty simple, fun thing. But you have to, it's all about technology. We're just guys in computers, smart guys in computers that are, but it's all about technology. Yes, sure.
Yeah, the flip side of the previous question on selling to the big boxes and the big customer. I know an example of a small entrepreneurial company that sold their product, were able to get their product sold through Walmart. And one of the complaints that he had was, okay, you got the school bus over there, and you get into their stores, but then they start constricting, your price and so forth. So what is your advice on protecting yourself? When you get into that big supply, that big outlet you want to sell through.
Sure. Well, if you have some kind of proprietary, something patents or proprietary product is always nice. But if you're doing, jam or honey, and a lot of people do, just smaller products like that, just good service and customer satisfaction, really. I don't think there's any secret to it. Make sure the shelves are full. Is the biggest thing I've in my experience. But it's hard. But the volume you cover a lot of sins with volume and growth, right? So as long as you have the growth and the volume and it's easier to sell to one customer, 1,000 stores than it is 1,000 customers. So there's a huge, and the whole distribution system. Walmart's killing them until yesterday, I guess, right? Walmart got beat up a little bit, but they're great. You don't have any bad debts, right, with Walmart or any of the big guys. That's probably the biggest thing that I loved about it.
Yep. Dave,
you ever had to fire clients in that time? I mean, you've had these really, you obviously had great success with the Home Depot and the big box. Yeah. But have there ever been any of those that, this isn't worth my time, or aggravation situation?
Anybody here from Lowe's? We fired Lowe's in somewhere in the midnight after we had Home Depot and Lowe's for a while, and that was fun. Payless Cash Rate, you guys remember them? They went busted on us. That was a pretty bad thing. But between Home Depot and Lowe's, when we hit them both, it was fun for first 5, 6, 7 years, and then every year they'd get both of them call you. They'd both call you in different time, different places, different cities, different competitors, and they'd say, "Well, you have our company B over here. Your competitors offered this price," and you never know what's true. And they're negotiators, buyers. Buyers are liars. Some people say. I would never say that, but and then Lowe's just got too tough at dealing with the co-op programs. They wanted radio advertising and co-ops, and we knew radio advertising didn't work for landscape products. So we said, well, we can't deal with you anymore, Lowe's, and then it turned out then Home Depot gave us all their business. So then I've got more fun dealing with. We had you're committed to the Home Depot business, but the threat's always there. They could fire you, but they're pretty hard to fire somebody that's supplying 5,000 stores one day. Nobody else has the capacity to come in the next day and kick you out, which is what the FTC recognized also, unfortunately, when we tried to sell it. But.
Don't you also think the issue is picking the right big box? If you pick Sears or Kmart, you rode the wrong horse. Yeah. I've done business with Walmart. They get 40% of our business. Yeah. They're the best customer I had. Yeah. Your money was in your bank account the day it was in, but you did business their way. Yeah. You used their systems, and if you got your shipment right, you were on time, you were watching their inventory levels. They were fabulous. Yeah. No, you're great. You nailed it. That's right. There was the trade-offs.
It's one customer and they can fire you. But you're right, as long as you have good, reliable systems, and the EDI systems and that kind of stuff are got to be perfect. And computers don't make mistakes, so as long as they're talking to each other, and your people running them don't make mistakes.
They were great.
Yeah.
Kmart, on the other hand, we fired Kmart.
Yeah. Good.
They just between deductions and late pay, and ultimately when they went sort of upside down, they didn't know it was a penny, so I was happy. I was a happy guy as their CFO.
Yeah. And when they lose a customer, it hurts them. When they lose a supplier goes bankrupt, they can't have their suppliers going bankrupt because it hurts their business. So they have to make sure it's a win-win. They have to keep the prices low enough they can make profits, but high enough that the customers are successful.
If you're keeping them in stock, your product's selling, they're making margin, they're never going to give it to you.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what Crickery recognized that. They came in about a $400 million company for no diligence, basically, because they knew the customer. Just call the customer and say, "Yeah, do you like these? Do you like Papeson as a supplier?" And they say, "Yeah, it's a done deal."
One more question.
Thank you. Looking forward, what's your main dream or objective, and what's your main concern going forward?
I guess the legacy of the business, making sure the business, whatever business are left, making sure your kid, none of my kids work in the business, wanted to really work. I got three daughters and a son. All three girls are in social media. Two of them are pretty successful influencers, whatever that is. They get with things like the in town like to know it and reward style. I'm sure a lot of your daughters are into social media. Mostly mine are in clothing and marketing. And my one daughter's a store called JoJo Mom, which is kids clothes, which is primarily over the net, or the web. So they're all kind of entrepreneurial, got their own thing going, but none of them actually want to work with me or work in the companies. But the thing as a legacy of the grandkids, that's why I did the book. Get some kind of legacy out there, and the kids could read it. So, my favorite customer is my 8-year-old grandson. He's reading the book with his mother. So.
That's great. Well, thank you for coming today. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Really appreciate it. Bob will be around for a few minutes if you want to talk to him. As I said, there's copies of the book sitting out on the front table as you're leaving. Please, you're welcome to pick one up. Wanted to share those with you. We will keep you updated on what we're doing in the fall and when we're going to have our next Aspire. Have a great summer. Enjoy it. I promise you it will get hotter. And if the government will spend more money, it will get hotter and we'll have more problems to solve. Okay, have a great week.